What? Oh, hey there. Just diving into my summer reading. It's the newest release by the Environmental Protection Agency. More than 1,000 pages of action-packed rules and regulations that will be felt from the power generating plant all the way to your home toaster. Now, before we jump into this page turner, let's get everyone up to speed on what's going on. The only job of our electric cooperative is to provide you, our member owners, with reliable energy at an affordable price. We do that by using an energy mix of the most affordable sources: clean coal, natural gas, wind, and hydroelectric power. Now, the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, wants us to stop generating electricity with coal, our lowest cost power source, because it emits carbon dioxide, which they think causes global warming. For the last year, White River's been encouraging its members to let the EPA know we need a common sense energy plan that doesn't punish cooperatives. And boy, did our members come through.
We've had 163,000 co-op members and other Missourians send emails to EPA saying we want an all-the-above energy strategy that includes clean coal. These co-op members from White River Valley really stepped up to the plate on this campaign. They are one of the leading co-ops in the country when it comes to making their voices heard at EPA. On behalf of all the electric co-op members in the state of Missouri, I want to thank you.
So the co-op nation made our voices heard, but apparently we need to shout louder. With the EPA's big release, they're not only telling America's power companies how to generate electricity, they're mandating how much of that energy you can use.
On June 2nd of this year, the EPA issued the most sweeping environmental rule in the history of the United States. It will affect every American in terms of reliability of their power supply and cost of their electric power.
The whole point to the new regulations put down by the EPA is to cut carbon emissions by 30%.
If the EPA wants our economy to be worse, this is one of the ways to do it.
So, how does America reduce carbon emissions 30% by 2030? Well, actually, the EPA put that burden on the states. They assigned each state a carbon intensity target, anywhere from 10 to 70%. And each individual state has to figure out how to reduce emissions using 4 suggested steps. They call them the 4 building blocks. Building block number 1, make coal plants 6% more efficient.
I think that some coal plants that's probably achievable, but Associated has already went into our coal plants, and we have already garnered some of those efficiencies that the EPA feels that you can go garner now.
If there was 6% to be gained in a plant today, we would already be going after it just to reduce the cost of energy production and help make our electric bills lower.
Since increasing efficiency at our coal plants really isn't an option, what we're really going to have to do is prematurely retire our coal plants.
It's such a sad irony that in the 70s, the co-ops were told you have to quit burning natural gas, and so we went out and built a fleet of coal-based plants. The federal government even loaned us the money to do it. And now we have this stranded investment that we can't get our full value for. Are they going to change their mind again in another 20 years and ask us to go a different direction?
So when 80% of Missouri's electricity comes from coal, how do we keep the lights on without it? That brings us to building block number 2. Increase the use of natural gas by 70%.
Over the last few years, natural gas prices have declined. But even though natural gas is at an all-time low, it's still more expensive to generate electricity with natural gas than it is coal.
Gas producers have always been sensitive to supply and demand, and that won't be any different whenever we double the amount of gas being burned in this country for electric power generation. It will inevitably increase the price of gas.
Speaking of expensive, building block number 3. Increase the use of renewables by at least 240%.
You know, electric cooperatives have always been environmentalists, really. So we've always looked for cost-effective renewables. Went out and invested in hydropower when green wasn't cool. We've been investing in wind, but we want to stay with what's cost-effective. And that's because we not only are about reliability for members, but also about keeping the bills affordable.
And it's not just the utility companies that have to make changes. The EPA is requiring you to make big sacrifices too. Building block number 4. Decrease consumer energy consumption 1.5% every year from now until 2030.
We have worked on energy efficiency for years. We have put the light bulbs out there. We've done the energy audits. We've done rebates. We've tried to do the right thing for so long.
But you have to recognize that lighting is only 3 to 5% of the total household energy use. So change out all the light bulbs. We might get 1 or 2 years of that EPA target down, but we're not going to get the next 10 by changing light bulbs.
The only problem is that the next step is a lot more cost. You go changing out your heater. You go tearing siding off and redoing the insulation.
I'm not sure all our consumers can make those kind of investments.
Sure, in theory, the building blocks all sound like good ideas. But when we really talk about putting these into action, they don't stack up.
With all the EPA regulations that are out there, I feel it's White River's responsibility to at least educate our membership on what their responsibilities are through their electric rates. I'm not out here crying wolf, but what I am telling you is this is going to have a negative effect on your electric bill.
We're not against any of this. We just want to do it in a cost-effective, reasonable way. We don't feel like this rule achieves that.
The co-op nation believes the EPA's new regulations have America on the verge of an energy crisis and threaten the reliability of the electricity we've come to depend on.
Having a diverse power supply reduces costs and it improves reliability. Coal's good at certain times, gas is good at certain times, wind is good at certain times. If we blend all those together, we can create a very reliable and low-cost network.
During those really cold days last year, gas supplies were short, gas prices went through the roof. We didn't have brownouts or shortages of electricity because we were able to run those clean coal plants.
So what's worse than unreliable electricity? Unreliable electricity that costs more.
If you use your least expensive generation source, coal, and you replace it with a higher cost fuel like gas or wind, then your rates have to go up significantly.
Today, we already have members that every month can't pay their bill. And just think how many more we're going to have when we increase their rates by 20%. And that's going to not only impact our residential consumers, but I really fear what it's going to do for some of our large industrial loads.
The country's ready to make things again, but the country won't make things again if we don't have utility policies that show that building a factory here, making things here, creating jobs here makes sense.
If we believe these new regulations would make a difference to the planet, cooperatives would be more than willing to step up and pay our share.
With the EPA regulations, one of the things you have to back up and consider is that, okay, what is that money actually going to solve?
It doesn't matter what you believe about climate change. You believe in it or don't believe in it, this rule doesn't make sense in either case. The United States emits 1/5 of the world's CO2. The utilities, 1/3 of that total, and this proposal is going to reduce that total by 1/5. So it's 1/5 of 1/3 of 1/5, which is 1%. The most difference you're going to make with this rule is 1% of global CO2 emissions. It's not going to make any difference to the planet. It's going to make a huge difference to our member owners.
And of course, the rest of the world is going to burn our cheap coal to power their generators and their economies.
If this is a worldwide problem, it deserves a worldwide solution. Every job we lose goes to somewhere that cares a whole lot less about what comes out of the smokestack than we do. So if we want to send jobs to China or Brazil or Mexico or India, this is the perfect way to do that.
But the cooperatives aren't waving the white flag on this energy battle just yet. The EPA has allowed 120 days for the public to comment on these proposed regulations before they finalize the rule.
We hope that realistically the Environmental Protection Agency will listen in the next 120 days and change these regulations that they've laid out that will make them somewhat achievable.
When you go to that www.action.coop website and you click on that button, what you're really telling them is you're for affordable and reliable electricity in the state of Missouri, and you believe our nation needs an all-of-the-above energy strategy which uses all energy sources available to us, including clean coal.
Right now we're saying we might see a 20% cost increase. Your voice could make this rule better to the point it'd only be a 10% cost increase.
People need to stand up and say this is the wrong thing to do. It's wrong for where we live. It's wrong for our country. It's wrong for our ability to compete
If we don't do it now, then you may as well just say, I'd like to start writing a check for $20 more a month.
There won't be a vote on these new EPA rules. Once they make their final decision, we're stuck with it. So now is truly our last chance to participate in that decision. Don't let your voice be lost now.
Co-op Nation is 42 million people. 42 million people that are strong when they decide to come together and make their voice heard.
This little old co-op in southwest Missouri with 42,000 members, we make a whale of an effort when we work together.
We will have a greener and cleaner power supply, no question about it. Let's just not move faster than the technology's ready, and let's not make people's bills go up or their reliability go down just to achieve a goal that's not really going to matter to the planet.
October 16th, 2014. That's when the EPA's public comment period ends, and it's our last chance to influence the future of our electricity. Join the 500,000 Americans that have taken action. Fill out a postcard and go to action.coop today to make your voice heard. Your quality of life, your job, and America's economy depend on it.